All right, 1501. 1501 National Environmental Planning Act. National Environmental Plan. National Environmental Protection Act, agency planning. Purpose: applying with the National Environmental Protection Act, early process of we're preparing environmental assessment, where to prepare environmental impact statement, the lead agency, cooperating agency scope, and the time limits. Art 1501 purpose: the purpose of the divide with the integrated with the National Environmental Policy Act with the process of the earlier planning with the ensure the appropriate with the consideration of the National Environmental Policy Act with the policy with eliminate delay. Emphasizing cooperative consultation among the agency before the environmental impact statement is prepared rather than submission with adversely comments with the complete with the document provide all the swift fair resolution of the lead agency dispute and find any early stage of significant environmental issues deserving a study. The emphasizing the issue with the narrow scope of the environmental impact statement accordingly provide with the mechanism of putting appropriate time limits on the environmental impact statement process. Applying the National Environmental Policy Act early in the process of the agency with the integrate with the National Environmental Policy with the process with the other than planning with the earlier possible time. The ensure the planning of the decision reflect environmental values to avoid delays. Later in the process, of the head off with potential conflicts, each of the agencies shall comply with the mandate section 102.2a, utilize a systematically interdisciplinary approach which will ensure they integrate with the use of the natural, social, scientific, the environmental design, art, and planning and decision making, which may have an impact of the man's environmental specified in 1507.2. Identified environmental impact value of the adequately detailed that compared to the economic and technical analysis of environmental documents. Appropriate analysis shall be circulated, reviewed at the same time other than planning documents, study, provide, develop, and describe the appropriate alternative, the recommended course of the action, and any proposal which involve the unresolved conflicts concerning alternative review of the available resource as provided in section 102.2e4. 102.2e of this act provides of this case the section actions planned with the private applicants that are the non-federal entities before federal involvement so that the policies designated staff are available to advise potential applicants of the study of the other information foreseeable to require with later federal action. Federal agencies consult early with approval appropriate state and local agency that introduce Indian tribe that introduce provide interested private person and organization involved involved with a reasonable foreseeable. Federal agency commence with the National Environmental Policy Act process for the earliest policy time. Art 15013, when to prepare an environmental assessment. Agency to prepare an environmental assessment 15089 when necessary under the procedure for the adopted with the individual agency supplement with the regulations described in 15073 with the assessment and not necessary agency has decided to prepare the environmental impact statement. B. Agencies may prepare environmental assessment any action, any time in order to assist the agency planning of the decision making. 15014, whether to prepare environmental impact statement. To determine whether to provide an environmental impact statement, the federal agency determine under the procedures of the supplement of these regulations described in 15073 within the proposal one of which normally requires environmental impact statement and normally does not require environmental impact statement or environmental assessment, a categorical exclusion. If the proposed activity is not covered in paragraph of the section provided prepare the environmental assessment 15089, the agency shall involve the environmental agency applicant with the public to the extent of the travel with the preparing assessment required with the 15089A1. Based on the environmental assessment, make it a determination to prepare an environmental impact statement commencing with the scope of the 15117. If the agency will prepare environmental impact statement, preparing a finding of non-significant impact if the agency determines if the basis of the environmental assessment is not prepared the statement. The agency shall be defined with no significant impact available of effective publications prescribed and specified in 15066. In certain limited circumstances, the agency may cover the procedures under 15073. The agency shall now make the finding a non-significant impact with the public review, including state of the area-wide clearinghouse for 30 days before agency makes the final determination whether the pair environmental impact statement before the action may begin with the circumstances of the proposed action are closely similar to only ones required with the preparation of the environmental impact statement under the procedures adopted by the agency pursuant to 15073 with the nature of the proposed ones of the which are not without precedence. 15015C, 15015, lead agency. Lead agency shall supervise the preparation of the environmental impact statement of the more than federal agency, either the proposed is or is involved in the same with the action and involved with the group of the action directly related with the same, each of the functional independence of the geographical proximity of the federal, state, and local agency, including at least one with the federal agency, may as join with the joint lead agency to prepare environmental impact statement of 15062. Within the action with the fail of the provision paragraph of the A with the potential lead agency determined by the letter or memorandum of the agency shall leave with the agency, which shall cooperate with the agency. Agency will resolve the lead agency questions so that it is not to cause a delay, but then there is no disagreement among the agency. The following factors, which are listed in order justifying important, shall determine the lead agency designation, magnitude, of agency involvement in the project, will approve of the disapproval. with each of the potential lead federal agency special expertise with respect to the environmental issue, which should be addressed with the statement may be the cooperative agency shall upon request of the lead agency. Any agency may request of the lead agency designate is cooperative agency. Lead agency shall request the participation of each of the cooperating agencies of the National Environmental Policy Act process of the earliest possible time. Use environmental analysis proposal for the cooperative agency jurisdiction law of special expertise. The environmental impact statement concerning with the cooperative agency has special activities make it available to support lead agency enhancements that later interdisciplinary capability. Normally use its own funds. Lead agency shall extend the available fund permit with the fund with a major activity to analysis request. Cooperative agency potential lead agency shall include the such finding requirement the budget requests. And the cooperative agency may respond with the lead agency request a system of preparing environmental impact statement described in paragraph B, 3, 4, or 5 of the section. Replay other program committee recruiting involvement of the degree involvement request for the action that is subject to the environmental impact statement. A copy of the reply shall be submitted to the council. Alright, 15017, scoping. There should be an early open process for the determining of the scope of the issue with the draft of identifying significant issues related with the proposed action. The process shall be determined scoping as soon as practicable after it is described and to prepare environmental impact statement before the scope of the process. The lead agency shall publish the notice of intent 1508-222. Federal Register except as provided in 15073E with as part of the scope of the process. The lead with the agency, they invite with the participation of any of the affected federal and state local agency and any affected Indian tribe proponent of the action of their interest, including those who might be in accord with the action on the environmental grounds unless limited exemption of the under 15073C for agencies may give the notice in accordance with 15066. Alright, determine the scope of the 1508 25 of the significant issue, the analyze of the depth of the environmental impact statement. Identify the eliminate for detailed study of the issue for the non-significant, which have been covered the prior environmental review of the narrowing to discover the issue for the statement of the brief the presentation, where while they will not have significant effect on the human environmental, providing as a reference for the coverage elsewhere. Allocating alignment with the preparation of the environmental impact statement among the lead and cooperating agency, with the lead agency retaining responsibility for the statement, indicating public environmental assessment and other environmental impact statement being or will be prepared for the related but not part of the scope of the impact statement of the under consideration. Unidentified environmental review of the consultation requirements of the lead and cooperative agencies may prepare required analysis studies concurrently with the integrated with the environmental impact statement as provided in 1502-25. Indicated relationship between the timely preparation, environmental analysis, and agency tentative planning and decision-making schedule. As part of scope process for the lead agency may set pages on environmental documents, set time limits, adopt procedures under to comply on environmental assessment process for the scoping process, hold any early scoping meeting which may be integrated with any of the earlier planning meetings of the agency has, such as scoping meeting and often an appropriate when the impact of the particular action is confined to a specific site. Agency shall revise determination made under paragraph A and B with a section of substantial change that made later with the proposed action if significant new circumstance or information arise will bear on the proposal or the impacts. Alright, 15018, time limits. All the council has decided with the prescribed universal time limit for the entire National Environmental Policy Act. They are too inflexible with the federal agency with encouraged to set times and appropriate to individual actions consistent with the time intervals required in 15061. Multiple agencies are involved with reference to agencies below by lead agency. The agency shall set time of the applicant and proposed action request, then provide with the limits of the are consistent with the proposed National Environmental Policy Act Other early consistent observation national policy agency with consider the following factors in determining time pilot limits potential environmental harm, size of the proposed act, state of the art of analytical techniques, degree of the public need of the proposed action, include with the consequence of the daily name of the person, agency affected, degree of the relevant information known, if known, of time required for obtaining it, a degree to which the action is controversial, other time limits imposed by the agency, law, regulations, executive order, the set overall time limits for each of the constituting part of the National Environmental Policy Agency Act process, which may include decision on whether the part of the environmental impact statement is not already decided, determination of scope of the environmental impact statement, the preparation of the draft environmental impact statement, the review of any comments for the draft environmental impact statement for the public and agencies, preparation of final environmental impact statement, the review of any of the component of the final environmental impact statement, the decision action based on part of the environmental impact statement, the designated of the person, such as a project manager or person in the agency offices of National Environmental Protection Agency, responsibility to expedite the National Environmental Policy Act process. State or local agencies members of the public may request a federal agency to set a time limit. All right, 1502, your environmental impact statement.